Where is he?
Where are you? Skull Rock. Do you know it?
Hello, everyone. This is Stacy over at the Skull Rock broadcast. I am joined by...
Hello, this is Megan. Welcome back to our Stranger Things podcast. Happy Friday when you're listening to this. We hope everyone is doing well and enjoying the summer. It's been a day so far.
We're having a day.
We just have had Joseph Quinn in Calvin Klein.
Oh, girl.
I mean, apparently we might be able to watch Horde later. We thought it was not going to be available in the United States yet, but it may be. So
Maybe. Fingers crossed.
we're looking forward to that. What else has been going on today?
So there's just been a lot, like Corey, the wink,
Officially Corey.
officially Corey, the, person that runs Joe Keery's, Instagram. He showed that actually Keery and crew for Joe are actually filming at Electric Lady Studios right now. So I'm like,
Yeah,
ooh.
they've been recording, so hopefully new album coming soon. That whole saga with Corey and him posting things on Joe's Instagram has been really hilarious and absurd to watch. So that's been fun.
Yeah, we've all turned into detectives. We're like, wait a second. So that's been fun. And like you said, just so much Joseph Quinn content, especially with him on the promotional stuff coming out for A Quiet Place Day One.
Oh, yes.
Just so many
yes.
adorable interview clips with him and Lupita, especially with the cat Jenga and stuff. I was dying. So just so much fun.
And My Hawk,
Yes.
Inside Out 2. That
thought
came
we'd
out,
go
right?
see that. Yeah, literally, I actually just might go to the theater this week because I teach a social emotional learning class at my job, and I have to show these kids Inside Out like 90 times because I teach so many classes, and I'd never seen it before. So then I was like, you guys want to watch the trailer for part 2? And they're all like, yeah. As soon as I saw Anxiety, I was like, this is perfect casting. Perfect.
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. I have never seen Inside Out,
Oh,
so I
it'll
guess
make
I
you
have to watch
cry.
that before I watch Inside Out 2. But yeah, super excited for her. She's been doing a lot of cool press for that too. So with all of that said, we also have exciting news today
Yeah, we do.
because our Patreon is officially live as of just a few hours ago. So
Woohoo.
like we said, it's been a super exciting day, and we are so grateful that we already have people joining, and the giveaway that
Yes.
we discussed last week has officially launched as well. So everyone who joins the Patreon will be entered into that giveaway, and we'll be putting out more information soon on how to get bonus entries. And don't forget that if you would like to be on a bonus episode of the podcast, that is now an opportunity that you have. So we already have people joining at that level, so we will have lots of bonus content coming out for you soon. And we're just super excited to hang out with everybody this summer and just enjoy the Stranger Things vibes and get ready for our super exciting trip in October.
Yes. Hashtag summer Skull Rock, people.
Yes, it's been amazing so far. We're only like 3 days in and we're just having a blast. So today we have the final episode of season 1. We have made it to the Upside Down, right?
We made it to the Upside Down. Yep.
This will be our 24th regular episode.
Wow.
If you've been keeping track, and we will have episode 25 next week, and we have a special guest. So we will be talking to Chris, who is at Filmstocked on Instagram, YouTube, all of that stuff. So we are super excited to talk to Chris. Tune in next week for that episode. And that episode will be sort of our season finale. So we're going to end our first season of the show. It's been about 6 months, and in July, we will start season 2 of our show. So obviously during season 2, we will talk about season 2 of Stranger Things as well at some point, but we also have lots of other fun summertime stuff planned.
Can't wait.
All right, so let's dive in.
Let's dive on
Lover's
into
Lake.
the Upside Down, which this is actually on topic. So last night I was watching the John Hughes movie. Well, not really. Well, John Hughes wrote it. Pretty in Pink. And there's a music cue, because you guys know me with the music cues. And I went, where have I heard this before? This is in another movie. So I'm losing my mind. I Shazammed it. And then I realized that it's used in the scene when they're getting ready for Will's funeral. So they took a music bit from Pretty in Pink and played it in Stranger Things. So my ears are like little antennas, guys. I'm right away like a dog whistle. I'm like, Stranger Things? So just need to let everybody know that if they, watch that movie and they're like, where have I heard that before? It was in Stranger
That's
Things.
so cool. Once again, the episode opens with a shot of Hawkins' lab at night.
I like that it was a starlit sky, like the opening shot of the very first episode.
Yep, exactly. I was thinking the same thing. And Joyce and Hopper, we know we left off with them getting captured by the people in the lab. So they're inside the lab.
Yep.
Joyce is in like an interrogation room being questioned by Brenner, who is trying to convince him to give him information about how she got in touch with Will.
Which, did you notice he goes, 6 people have been taken. So here I am trying to do my math. I'm like, all right, the scientist from the elevator in the opening episode, Will, Barb, those 2 hunters, who's the last person?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
They might not have mentioned or shown it, but I was like, 6 people? Damn! So yeah.
I clocked that too. And it was very interesting because, yes, we think of the people at the lab as kind of like the villains, but they are trying to kind of like contain the situation.
Yeah.
So it's like they are terrible because of the way they treated the situation with Will and didn't try to rescue him, but they did send somebody in. Oh, maybe that's the 6th person.
I didn't even think about that. That guy, Shepard.
Yeah.
Oh, you are good, Megan. Yeah.
That just like popped out of my mind there.
We got it. Yep.
Yeah. So it's like they did send someone in and unsuccessfully. So it's not like they felt like they could find Will. So I just kind of see like the situation that they're in too. Like
you see
they
both
do
sides,
need kind of help to kind of contain this situation and stop the monster from taking everybody else. But of course, Joyce is not having it. She tells him to go to hell.
Which I love that. I absolutely love that. Like we had a funeral, you covered it up. And then I like how they're using a slightly different approach with Hopper. They're tasering the shit out of him. And I love that, that bitch of a woman is basically like, this was a mistake, you coming back. And, one of the lab people are like, oh, you're going to have an accident and take 1 too many pills. They're going to basically murder him and cover it up. And I like that, basically Hopper remains calm despite being tasered like 90 times. And he says that they're going to help him and Joyce get her boy back. And they're going to forget this even happened. And he'll let them know where their little science experiment is, meaning 11, which makes you wonder, like, okay, is he really going ahead with this? Which you're like, damn, after everything we've heard and learned about Hopper and Al, you're like, ooh, because he doesn't really know her. Or is he just playing along, So very interesting.
Right. Well, and I thought some interesting, like, kind of parallels to things that happen in later seasons were like the whole, who are you working with? Because it's like, he really wasn't working for anybody else. Just like poor Steve was just, an employee at Scoops Ahoy, which I did like that like meme that I think you shared this week, and it was like Steve and Dustin literally just brought this on themselves. They just decided to investigate a secret Russian code for fun.
Summer fun.
And then he also said like he gave this over to his friend at the Times, which is kind of like what Jonathan and Nancy try to do in season 2 with like, sending things to the newspapers and everything. I was wondering, does he tell them where Elle is? Because like you said, he doesn't really know Elle yet. He doesn't have that bond. He doesn't have
an emotional connection. So
and they do go to the school, but do you think that Hopper figured that the kids would be gone by then? Like, I don't know.
I'm not sure. And if he did, like, I can't really judge him that bad because his main priority is Will and the children that he already knows. So it definitely was a little like, oh, yikes. But I like that we go back to the middle school and Ella's resting up on the bleachers and Mike goes outside looking for Nancy, but finds that her and Jonathan are gone. Steve would never do that. And I love
Mhm.
Dustin's reaction. She's probably off second face.
Terrible babysitters. Terrible babysitters.
Terrible. And Elle knows actually like that they want to go hunt the demogorgon. So
Yeah. And then we see them back at the buyer's house. They are preparing for the demogorgon. They're putting some light bulbs back in, loading the gun, setting the bear trap, pouring gasoline, and
they make the nail bat.
they make the nail bat.
The iconic nail bat, which everybody always thinks it was always Steve who had it, but really Jonathan made it. And this was their, and I know you haven't seen the Nightmare on Elm Street, but I find it so interesting. The lead character's name is Nancy, and there is a montage of her like setting traps up in her house that are all like homemade and stuff in order to catch Freddy Krueger. So I always found that very
Oh.
interesting that it kind of reminded me of her setting up everything just like them.
Yeah, and it's funny because yeah, like you said, it was Nancy's bat to begin with. We see like the whole journey of this bat throughout this season. When Jonathan brings the gun, he and Nancy end up switching, and
Yep.
Nancy takes the gun. Jonathan has the bat. So Jonathan's the one putting the nails in the bat. I like that in Fargo season 5, we
Oh
have
my
that
God.
little cameo appearance by a nail bat as well. And it's like also a nail bat that Joe Keery's character ends up having, but he's not the one that made it.
Yep, exactly.
Dot, I think, made it,
He
right?
did. Yep.
In Fargo. So that was just so funny. But also it just made me think of like Home Alone, like
Oh my
setting
God.
the
Literally, I'm not even kidding you. I thought the same thing, and then when I showed that episode of Fargo to Brandy, I was like, it's like a Home Alone episode.
yeah.
So yeah, basically them doing the bear trap and everything. So they're preparing.
Also, my favorite part of their whole like trap system is the fact that they use this yo-yo that has like a
Oh
smiley face.
my God, I was dying at that. I was like, yeah, this is Home Alone coded. Like they're using shit from around the house. We basically already talked about it, but there is that scene where Brenner walks in with Hopper and they make that deal of him basically saying, I'll tell you where the girl is, your little science experiment. And basically when he walks out with Joyce, he kind of like, because they uncuff her and stuff and they start walking down the hallway to probably get ready to enter the Upside Down. And he, explains that they struck a deal. And if she wants Will back, the lab had nothing to do with this, which makes sense almost. Like, they're like, okay, go ahead and risk your life. And I like that, they're given hazard suits and they say that the air is toxic. And right away, I went back to season 4 where you hear Steve like coughing before they go into Eddie's trailer. And he's like, oh, I got a bunch of that crap stuck in my throat. I'm like, these guys are all, if they survive season 5, they're not making it to the 2000s. They're going to be dead.
They just let them go in. And Brenner, you see Brenner telling the woman, like, basically, he's not bothered. Like, he's not concerned. He just thinks they're going to die in there, right? He's like, you wanted them to be gone, right? Like, they're gone.
Yeah, like, we struck a deal and she's questioning it. And he's like, they're not coming back. Like,
Yeah.
and Hopper does have a gun, but we're going to learn in this episode that really, even an assault rifle doesn't do much good. But,
No, not for the Upside Down. But right
slowly
before the
enter.
credits,
Oh.
they go in and it's very like sci-fi, like, but I don't know.
Such an eerie shot of them entering like the
Yeah.
gate and
Yeah.
just all that, the particles, the toxic air. And it was a hell of an opening because it sets up basically how fast-paced this episode is as the season finale.
So after the credits, we get Hopper trying to calm Joyce down because she's kind of starting to panic as they're walking in, and he gets the flashback and we can tell he's younger. He's like clean shaven, but it's him with his daughter Sarah and his ex-wife, and he's like chasing her on a playground, and then she kind of like starts having an episode where she can't breathe, which I assume is sort of like related to whatever
Or
illness she ended
illness,
up
yeah.
having. But him just trying to like get her to calm her breathing is kind of the same tactic that he's using with Joyce to help her calm down.
It's heartbreaking too, because we've already learned that he did lose a child and stuff. And we see her, when she was younger, and she's got that blue hair tie in her hair. And the opening shot, when it does, show them in the upside down, it's a pretty clever shot because the camera's upside down, slowly pans upright to them.
Yeah.
But that flashback, it definitely adds more depth to this character. And it kind of like, what's going to happen, but he's focused on keeping Joyce calm and level-headed as they search for Will.
Right. And then we cut back to the buyer's house where Nancy and Jonathan make the cuts on their palms.
Oh my God. Why in movies does the palm bleed more and like maybe like you won't notice a scar as much? I accidentally cut my thumb today opening up a frame, and literally it's not even really a cut, it's like a paper cut. And I'm like, it stings. But I do like that Jonathan's like, we don't have to. And she's like, "Yay!" And they just cut. So they know the demogorgon is attracted to blood like a shark, and they are waiting for it to come.
Right. And then we get
Oh my God.
Dustin. So we're back in the gym at the school, and they're kind of arguing about whether or not they should stay or whether they should go and look for Nancy and Jonathan. And they kind of decide to stay, but Dustin decides that they need sustenance. Elle needs recharging. And the way to do that is chocolate pudding.
That Dustin, I feel like I have a lot of Dustin in me. I do like his comment about how Nancy's fine because she's a badass. He knew it even from the start.
He did.
He goes looking for pudding, and he says that Lunch Lady Phyllis, she hoards that shit. So yes, she does. We do discover that.
It happens later, but I don't know that I'll remember to say it. Elle is like, "What is pudding?"
I love it how Mike describes it too. He's like, "It's brown goo." And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I mean, I love everything pudding, so I'm totally for that.
And we do have the chocolate pudding ice cream flavor too.
Dude, I bought a pint of that like last week. I'm waiting to dive into it. That might be tonight. So back at the buyers, Nancy and Jonathan wait. Somebody needs to run a vacuum in that living room. It's seen some better days, but they have a lot going on. And Nancy hears something, and Jonathan tells her not to worry, that his mom said the lights flicker and speak when it comes.
Exactly.
And to think of the lights almost as alarms. So Nancy finishes wrapping their hands up in gauze. Clearly, there's a little bit of sexual tension between the two, and it's no surprise that these two actors actually ended up meeting and falling in love on set, because you can feel it. Great chemistry. And I'm not even kidding you. I had my volume, so I have surround sound, and I had it turned up way too loud. So when the knock on the door happened, I fucking jumped. I was like, ah, like that. So I couldn't. And my God, so the knocking happens, and who is it, Megan? Who's at that door?
Steve Harrington. He's wanting to come apologize to Jonathan. So he's yelling like, I just want to talk, man. And Nancy opens the door. So he's obviously like shocked to see her there, but he's being very sweet, apologetic. He's just kind of like begging to be let in to talk to Jonathan. And he doesn't really like force himself in until he realizes that she has like the bandage on her hand,
which I love.
Yeah,
like,
he's being like very protective.
Yeah, like that's not a good look that his girlfriend yet again is at Jonathan's house, and he's not even fazed by it. He's just like, I messed up, need to apologize. And then as soon as he sees that she's hurt, that's when he barges in, and he's like, did he do this to you? And right away, it's sensory overload. Like, talk about Inside Out. I probably have a bunch of Steve Harringtons in my head when he first enters that living room, because there's a nail bat, there's guns, it smells like gasoline, there's Christmas lights. So he's like, what the hell is that smell? What is this? He's babbling, not really listening to
Yeah.
Jonathan, who's telling him he needs to leave. And I love that literally Nancy's just like, she cuts through the bullshit and holds a gun to him and is like, you have 5 seconds to leave.
Right. And Jonathan's face, actually, like his reaction when Nancy holds the gun up, he's kind of like surprised, which I
Yeah.
mean, fair. And then Steve is also kind of like eyeing the nail bat. And when Jonathan picks it up, he's like, easy with that. Which was just kind of funny. But the lights begin to blink. So Steve freaks out even more. He doesn't know what's going on. And the monster drops out of the ceiling.
Literally, like, could you fucking imagine? It just drops out like a newborn fawn. And right away, I love the shot that Jonathan grabs Steve's hand and drags him down the hallway with Nancy. And they all jump over the bear trap and run into Will's room. And it's so funny because I think I've posted this photo before. I'll have to send it to you again. The first photo I ever took of me watching this show was in 2016. And it's of that shot of them like looking at the door and the yo-yo. So I'm like, look at that. And I love that Steve's like, what the hell was that? And they both are like, shut up.
That was like classic. It was so good. But I just was kind of like curious about the logistics of coming out of the ceiling, because when we have the gates in season 4, the upside down version is also in the ceiling. So that would mean that the Demogorgon went up through the ceiling in the upside down to get into the ceiling of the Byers' house. And I was just kind of like,
the Byers' house was the equivalent to the Demogorgon, like one of those old McDonald's, not the farm, the restaurant, the like play tubes and shit that they had. He was just crawling all over the place, making little gates. But I just like, I die at that shot because like, yeah, it's 2016 CGI, but they did do a mixture of practical. I do know people who have worked on it. And it was actually a guy in a suit with like a layer of CGI on it.
Yeah.
But just the way it drops, it's like all those reels on Instagram of like roommates or children falling through the ceiling accidentally. Like that thing drops hard.
I mean, I guess that was already sort of like Poltergeist coming down through the ceiling back in season 1.
Exactly.
Look at me with my Poltergeist.
You're making me so proud right now. All right, so they walk out to check, and the lights have stopped flickering, and there's nothing. The Demogorgon is gone. I'm like, ooh.
And I just also, like, I guess it has to, like, make an initial gate, but then it can kind of just, like, disappear, too. Yeah. I'm like, okay, this is, like, all very strange.
Like, where did it go? Did it go out for a smoke? Like, what the hell? But back in the Upside Down, Hopper and Joyce are going through the woods, and I never noticed this before, and I've seen this episode a million times. The egg! I zeroed in, because that's an Alien reference. And I, like, did the Leo pointing thing, and I went, is that a Demogorgon egg? Like, is that what happens?
Do they hatch from eggs? I was like, when I took notes on this last year, I was like, is this connected to like spiders? Because of like, in season 4, they have the spiders. So maybe like, I don't know, the Demogorgons hatch from eggs like a spider. And that would explain how they can like crawl all over the place.
Megan, I'm going to puke. I can't do spiders. No, absolutely not. Moving on. But yeah, the egg looks really, really cool. And they go like into the woods and they see the destroyed parts of Castle Byers.
Yeah.
And Joyce starts to freak out. And Hopper sees amongst the wreckage of Castle Byers like this dirty stuffed lion/tiger, which made me actually think of Els in that episode that she had in the lab.
Yeah, maybe it's definitely the same one. So like Will has it in the upside down version of Castle Byers, at least. I don't know that we ever see it in like another shot of Castle Byers. We'll have to look.
Yeah, I have to look, because was that a popular toy? Like, we weren't born yet.
I guess I did have like a big lion version of like a toy like that, but But yeah, Elle has one in the lab apparently, and then Sarah also has one because that's what he kind of thinks of in the
He flashes
flashback.
back, which, oh my God, that scene, like that. So so right away it's a heavy scene because it cuts
Yeah.
to, probably sometime later at the hospital, and Sarah clearly is going through what I would assume is cancer. She's lost all her hair, and Hopper's wearing that blue hair tie. His ex-wife is listening, and he's reading Anne of Green Gables to her, which in season 2 he reads to Elle, but I started choking up because I'm emotional, and anybody would. And the only thing that made me smile was back in the 6th grade, we did Anne of Green Gables as a school play. I am not an actor by any means. I played one of the old aunts, and I took it upon myself opening night without any permission from my drama teacher or anybody else to attempt an accent. And it was a mixture between an old New England and I couldn't even tell you, maybe Australian, maybe English. And all I saw was the horrified looks of my family and my drama teacher. And I felt the need to shout every single line. So that was my one and only performance. And I was thinking that made me kind of giggle. But yeah, Anne of Green Gables, everyone. Great story.
Well, and then we see Hopper crying in a
Oh,
stairwell.
which I thought of what you said. Did you say like
Yeah,
that's literally like it looks like a stairwell from the lab?
it does. Like the railing is the exact same. So it's like either just they had to reuse that set and that's just a generic, hospital railing, or is there like a connection because it is connected to the lab for some reason. So
Mm,
definitely interesting to see if there's ever
something.
an explanation for that connection because it's like you would think that they would, try to use a different stairwell if they wanted it to look like a different place.
Yeah.
They're usually pretty meticulous about the sets and things like that. So,
Makes you think. But
yeah.
he snaps out of it and he starts shouting for Will with Joyce. And then we go back to the teens slowly creeping in the living room. I was dying at Nancy and Jonathan armed and the way Steve was creeping behind them like a child. That was great. And then his mini breakdown sounding like Chevy Chase in the original Vacation movie, muttering, "This is crazy. This is crazy." My God.
And he tries to call 911, picks up the phone and dials
Yep.
911. And does Nancy pull the cord
Nancy
off?
literally like yanks it out of his hand and throws across the
Yeah.
room.
And she tells him that he needs to leave before it comes back.
Mm-hmm.
So he does run to his car. And I like how he's like fumbling for his keys. Like, did he
Yeah.
really lock his car while he was like in there? Like,
That's a Beamer, baby. You lock that.
but he's trying
The
to unlock his
Demogorgon's in the
car
back seat. That's actually the twist.
and he gets the door open. Something catches his attention because the lights have started flickering again in the house, which didn't I say earlier in the season that like the same sort of thing? I think it's Joyce. Joyce runs out of the house to the
Yes.
car and then she looks back at the house and realizes that the lamps are kind of like glowing again.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a parallel there. You just cut back to the inside of the house, right?
Where Nancy and Jonathan are like back to back. And there's that really cool rotating dolly shot that's just spinning around. And you almost feel like you're in their point of view, the panicked confusion and the speed of just looking around trying to figure out where is it going to come from next. It
No,
always
but I was just
reminded
gonna say
me.
that's the same as like this shot in season 4 with Dustin and Eddie and the bats.
Them back to back. Girl. Good. Oh, sending you kisses. Yeah, it definitely is just like that. And it reminded me of in Stephen King's original Carrie, Brian De Palma's Carrie, there's this classic rotating dolly shot that just starts, the actors are probably on a rotating platform and it just goes faster and faster. But I always love whenever that's used in a TV show or a movie because you do feel kind of like the characters, like, well, where the hell is it? So they're trying to figure out where it's coming from. The lights go out for just 1 second. And then boom, the Demogorgon appears and it slowly stands up because that thing is like 10 feet tall.
Yeah,
And
it's
Nancy's the
huge.
first one to see it because she turns around, tries to warn Jonathan, and it leaps on him. And there's just that, I know this has been done in a million horror movies, but it's just so iconic. it just drooling. It's so
Yeah.
gross
It's
onto
like
his
drooling
face.
into his mouth. It's disgusting.
Ew, that's gross. And literally it opens up its mouth and we get to see like the flower shape and how
Yeah.
many freaking teeth this thing has. And Nancy tries to shoot
Shoot
it.
it.
And
Right. She's shooting at it.
shooting at it.
And she runs out.
Here comes our knight, and instead of shining armor, tight ass jeans. And Steve Harrington is to the rescue. He uses the bat and he catches the monster off guard. He starts to hit it. And you can tell the way, like, whoever choreographed this scene, if it was either a choreographer or it was Curie, he's acting like an athlete. Like, he's making sure that there's plenty of space between him and this huge creature. And there's just that badass shot of him twirling the bat. Like,
It's awesome.
I'm fanning myself right now, guys. Like, holy fucking
It's like
shit.
one of my favorite shots in the whole show.
Woo! It's just so
With the
so
Christmas
cute.
lights in the background, and oh my gosh.
And I think this just goes to show you why the Duffer Brothers decided to change Steve's narrative. They decided to keep him, and his redemption has already started the episode before. But Nancy isn't some damsel in distress by a long shot, but there are multiple times throughout the show that he saves her life along with others. So go, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, he saved her and Jonathan in this moment for
Yep.
sure. And he is so quick thinking that he realized that he needed to get it into the trap. Like, that's
Yep.
what he's trying to do, is get it over into the hallway where he knows they have that trap set up. And I mean, it's literally been like 3 minutes total that he's like known about this plan, and he caught on so quickly. And so he gets it in the trap. He yells for them that it's in the trap, and I guess Jonathan gets himself up and comes over, and they light the gaslight on fire.
Joyce better have great homeowners insurance, because yikes,
Right.
that whole hallway went fucking up.
Yeah, and I mean, they've got the fire extinguisher, but the Demogorgon catches on fire and it starts kind of like screaming. And in the Upside Down, they cut to Joyce and Hopper for a second, and they can hear it because they're kind of like almost to their house.
They hurry
Joyce's
to the house to the source of the noise. Yeah, I loved that.
So Jonathan puts out the fire with the fire extinguisher, thank goodness. And this, I think, was one of my favorite scenes in the episode.
God. This
because
tugged on the heartstrings.
Yeah, I love how the music changes, and it's got like that sweet kind of music to it. And Nancy, Steve, and Jonathan start seeing like the lights blink, but it's not as like erratic and as the Demogorgon. It's just kind of like a gentle like blinking.
One after another,
and we see that it's in the Upside Down. They're kind of like triggering the lights in the real world to blink like that. And Jonathan somehow can tell that it's his mom. Like, he can sense her. And he says to her, like, "Mom, is that you?" And
she can almost
she can hear
it.
him. Yeah. Yeah. So
I just that gave me chills, because I will say this probably, guys, a million more times. I think one of the biggest concepts is a mother's love, and it shows like, if you almost think about it, like, do you have to have this strong emotional connection in order to sort of hear somebody? Like, think of all the other examples of people in the Upside Down kind of hearing the people in the real world. Even with the teens in Dustin in season 4, do you need to have that emotional connection? But it's just such a beautiful and touching scene. And Charlie's acting in it, his eyes are almost filling with tears. And I love that, the smoke clears and they walk out and they see the street lamp going. And Nancy's like, "Well, where's it going?" And he goes, I don't think that's a monster."
Yeah,
like, he knows it's his mom.
Yeah.
Total goosebumps. But I did notice, like, when they, use the fire extinguisher and like that carpet, they're going to have to rip up that carpet. I don't know if you've ever seen Back to the Future, but there is a scene where Michael J. Fox tells the younger versions of his parents, if you ever have a kid and they accidentally light the carpet on fire, take it easy on him. And for years, I have wondered, what the hell was he doing? Maybe Marty McFly was killing and capturing a Demogorgon. You never know,
I guess
guys.
so. But
Connections.
It's funny because also the Demogorgon does its like vanishing act again, because it's on fire in the buyer's house but then the blood is there in the upside down because Hopper
Yeah.
and Joyce can see it and they're like, it was her.
Yeah.
And they kind of follow the trail of like the blood out of the
Mhm.
house. So that was really interesting too.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I really do hope too in season 5 we get more like it's almost a return of the Christmas lights because the Duffer Brothers have said there's going to be a lot of like parallels to the first season. I just love that whole concept of the lights, and I'm like they got to somehow incorporate that, especially with the assumed time period it's going to be taking place in November, December. I hope we
Right.
get some Christmas light action.
Yeah, that would be amazing. We go back to the school
Yep.
and surprise, surprise, Lucas and Dustin find the hoard of chocolate pudding.
They hit the mother load, man, and I love how excited they are, and
Yeah,
they're
Lucas's face.
oh.
Caleb is just so full of like expression. Like his
Mm.
face is so expressive. Like I just love like especially in this season, just his facial expressions. They just make me full of joy. But this is where Mike and Elle are kind of talking, and I said before she's kind of asking him what
What's
pudding
pudding?
is. But it's kind of a sweet moment because
Mm.
Mike's sort of, I don't know, he's kind of delusional because do you really think this would be able to happen? But
It's such a naive, like, point of view of a 12-year-old.
yeah,
So hopeful,
so
you know?
he thinks that Elle can kind of join their family, that his parents will get her a bed.
Yeah, if he goes on, he's like, "You won't have to eat junk food like a dog anymore. My mom's a really good cook. You know, you're gonna join our family. My parents are gonna take care of you. Nancy will be like a sister." And she's like, "And you'll be like my brother." And the face he makes, he goes, "Ew, no." And then he, like, gets kind of embarrassed, and he's, like, stumbling over his words as a child would, and she's like, "Mike, friends don't lie." And that's when he kinda, like it reminded me of that scene in The Goonies when Chunk tells Sloth, like, "You're gonna come live with me now." So, he just ends up kinda almost saying like, "No, I like you," and he mentions the snowball dance,
Mhm.
and that's when, it's just so cute that he leans in and he kisses her and that wonderful music cue plays. It's so innocent and sweet, and Millie Bobby Brown's, like, expression, just, like, it's so adorable, you know?
It's so sweet. Yeah, so cute. And then the people from the lab ruin it.
They really do, those fucking assholes. Right away, Mike sees headlights outside and what sounds like a car approaching. He thinks it's Nancy, tells Al to stay put, goes out, and he sees military trucks and people from the lab entering the gymnasium. And lo and behold, I love that you see how much pudding Dustin bring to the other room. And they're like, this will definitely recharge your batteries.
But unfortunately, they have to run.
We have to run because, all those fucking lab people are there. And it was just such an intense scene where they're being pursued by the guards who have guns. And it really made me think of, because you brought it up before, that scene in season 4 where Henry/1 is trapped with Elle. And on each side, there are military/lab people with guns, including that bitch that killed Benny. And this was an intense scene, Megan. Like, Elle's already weak, but she uses her power to what I'm assuming is give everybody brain hemorrhages, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Their eyes start bleeding, which is kind of similar to like some of Vecna's victims.
Mhm.
And then, they just kind of like explode and keel over. She kills like 8 people like at
Very Stephen
once.
King coded. I loved it.
So we cut back to Joyce and Hopper in the Upside Down. They're walking through like an upside down version of like downtown Hawkins,
Mhm.
and then they end up going into the library.
Okay, it was the library. I was gonna ask you. I was like,
Yes.
is that town hall or the library? Good to know.
So you see like the shelves and stuff like that. And then back at the school, Brenner and the others kind of overtake the kids and he like lifts up Elle into his arms and just tells her that he wants to take her home and
He
make
can
her
make her
better.
better.
Yeah, so that
And
this won't happen again.
I love that she starts like struggling and pulling away from him, saying bad, and then calling for Mike.
Right.
And
She's
then
like
next,
reaching for Mike.
yeah, like she's done, and like just the look of betrayal on, his face. And then of course the lights start flickering, and Mike knows that all the blood from the dead guards and lab people are tracking the Demogorgon. And there's that awesome shot of it bursting through the, wall where there's the painted paw print for the tigers, and it comes out, and the guards start shooting. Clearly it's doing jack shit. The kids run. I love that Dustin picks Elle up.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, guys, not that this is a spoiler alert. That Demogorgon pounced on Brenner like a Rottweiler. So I guess we're just going to assume that something happened in which he was able to stop, drop, and roll, I guess, and get away.
Right.
Okay.
Because we think he's dead,
Yeah.
but he comes back, as we know, in season 4.
And he has like a little scar on him. Like, oh, well, thank God.
Something happened, I guess. But Joyce and Hopper find Will. They find Will and a bunch of other victims.
That
I
looks
guess.
like, so I know you haven't seen Aliens, but it would mirror a scene where the Marines find all these people almost like in the hive of the aliens, like a nest, and there's bones, and they find Barg's corpse, and it reminded me just like Aliens, and how Will is almost like cocooned to the wall, and it's either a tentacle or a vine, and that fucker is shoved down his throat. And Hopper has to like yank it out, and it's still alive, and he starts shooting at it, like terrifying.
Right. He flashes back to Sarah again because she has like a breathing tube down her throat. So it's almost like that vine is down Will's throat like a breathing tube and kind of like connected to him.
So Dustin carries Elle with the other boys they're going past the guards who are all, trying to stop this freaking monster. And they go into what looks like a science lab, and they lay Elle down, and it's just so cute. Like, and it really made me kind of like start tearing up when Mike tells her to just hold on a little longer, because clearly she's really weak, and they'll be home soon, and that
she can have as many egos as she wants
in her own bed. And it just like, he goes, we're going to go to the snowball dance. And just, I don't know, especially hearing the original plan that the Duffer brothers actually wanted to kill 11 off in this season. I look at it a little differently, and her just going like holding his hand going, promise. And then what bursts into the lab, Megan?
The Demogorgon. It comes in, which, hold on, before we talk about this, not to make it even sadder, but the parallel between that, like you just described, like if Elle was really going to die, and then Eddie with the whole like, it's my year, Henderson, like
shut your mouth, Megan. Shut your mouth.
Okay, but that's where my brain went.
Oh my God. No, you're absolutely right. Like they give you these characters that just have such hope, and you want them to have a happy ending. And then this is happening, and it's just like, it's making you just so terrified for these kids. And yet again, very it-coded that, right away the Demogorgon bursts in, and they're like, get the wrist rocket.
Yeah, and all the rocks that they collected.
and you're like, if a machine gun didn't do it, guys, like this isn't going to do it. But they're kids, and they're trying everything. And Lucas uses one of his last stones, and magically, wink wink, it goes slamming against the blackboard, and it's pinned. And that music cue, as you find out that it wasn't the rock, it was actually Elle. And she walks forward. She's not looking too good. Her eyes are very bloodshot, and she just looks so determined. And Millie Bobby Brown's acting in this is superb. Mike tries to stop her. She uses her power to throw him back and protect him. And she walks up to the snarling Demogorgon, and without getting too deep, like this could be a symbolism of a victim standing up to an abuser, and her just saying, goodbye, Mike, and just, Finn's acting too, just him, crying, watching helplessly as she turns around, and she just says, no more, and starts using her power to, what would you call it? Like push him back into the upside down?
Yeah, he's kind of like disintegrating. She's like blasting him apart, and she does think that she's kind of like sacrificing herself.
Hmm.
Like, so you see this sort of like portal open back up, and they both just kind of like disappear, and then
Hmm.
the portal closes. So you're kind of led to believe that she kind of disintegrated herself as
Yep.
well. And that's how we kind of leave off. And it's so similar to the scene in season 4 where we
Chills.
see her kind of do the same thing to Vecna, or to Henry/Juan when he kind of became Vecna. And
Exactly.
right from that super epic emotional scene, we go to another
Oh God.
super emotional scene where
That
my favorite
freaking
song
Moby
is
song.
played.
Don't even fucking
Um,
Moby.
so Moby is playing as they try to resuscitate Will. And Hopper thinks of Sarah again when she kind of, I guess, when she died, like she had coded and was
Yep.
flatlining.
Did you ever hear the story that last year? Yeah, I know you know what I'm about to say.
Yep.
A kid knew how to do CPR from watching this scene and saved their
Yeah.
friend's life.
So that
Stranger
was
Things,
insane.
saving life since 2016.
But then Will wakes up.
They
He
get him
does wake
back.
up.
Yep.
Yeah. Just like Eddie's gonna wake up.
He's gonna wake up. Don't worry. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. And we go back to the school. The Wheelers actually arrive along with a mixture of emergency responders. And Karen finds Mike in the back of an ambulance with the other boys, and she
Yeah.
hugs him.
So this was another like parallel that I noticed, because obviously Will wakes up and Joyce is like hugging
Yes.
him. So we've got that mother-son
Yep.
relationship, and then we have Karen hugging Mike. So another kind of like mother's love sort of parallel there
Telling
between
you,
those two.
it's very strong in this show, which I absolutely love. And it kind of shows it yet again when Will wakes up in the hospital to Joyce and Jonathan. And I love how emotional this reunion is of this small, little, unconventional family, and how close they are, and how, they're just kind of like crying and they're so relieved and they're just so happy that he's back. And Jonathan kind of brings him a box of like stuff to keep him busy in the hospital, along with a new mixtape. So what a good
Right.
big brother.
Which we know now that it might have been Jonathan's mixtape that he made him with the Clash song on it.
Yeah.
Should I Say or Should I Go? That kind of saved Will's life potentially. Like that
Mhm.
music was so important. Will sees the bandage on Jonathan's hand,
Oh my
and he's like,
God.
"Are you okay?" Like, and Jonathan just is kind of like, "Are you asking me if I'm okay?" Like,
You have spent a
jeez.
week in another dimension. Like,
But then we cut to the waiting room, and who's in the waiting room? Stacy.
I love that in the waiting room, you see Ted Wheeler, you see Steve, who should be seeing a doctor at this point. We go to Karen, Nancy, an adorable shot of Dustin and Lucas sleeping against each other,
Yeah, Hopper's
and
there
Mike.
too.
Yep.
Yeah. I just love that Steve, went to the hospital with them. Like,
He's waiting. He's a good guy, guys. Come on.
yes.
And just then,
They come in to tell the boys that Will is awake. And yeah, so the boys go in. It's so adorable because immediately the first thing that they tell him is that they had a funeral,
yep,
and that Jennifer Hayes was crying at the
trying
funeral.
Troy peed his pants in front of the whole school, and Will
Yep.
like lights up at that.
They tell him about the van flipping over.
Hmm.
They tell him about Elle and how she's basically a wizard, and how she killed those people and there was blood pouring from their mouth. Oh, gross, guys. But there's kind of like a little bit of an emotional moment with Nancy, because
I
she kind
noticed
of
that.
has followed them in and is excited, but then I think she sort of feels like she's intruding, like she doesn't really feel like she
Yeah,
should be there, I guess.
that, and I think it also hits her that Barb isn't going to have that moment.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that. Oh, that's
Oh,
tough.
that sucks. But I
Yeah.
actually really love this shot of it cuts to outside, and Hopper's going out for a smoke, and he doesn't even act surprised when the government car pulls up, and he knows what's next, and they don't even need to show it. But what happened that night, it's getting covered up. And he gets into the car, and yet again, the camera points up to a starlit sky.
So then we have like the little epilogue, and it's 1 month later, and it's snowing. So I think it was this year at Christmas that Matt and Ross shared like a behind the scenes photo of like the Wheeler house with like the
Yes.
snow coming down. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. But they're playing D&D.
Did you pay attention to what they were saying? They said that, no, I'm going to butcher it. You might have
I
to help
love
me.
this scene. I've got it written down, so you're good.
Terrestahydra?
That's the Hydra.
Which is a 7-headed dragon, which I know there have been rumors of that possibly maybe being in season 5. And, there's a lot of speculation. And they ask Will what's going to be his action. And he decides to fireball, and he gets a 14, which I guess in D&D, that's good. And the usage of the theme kids that plays, and he ends up actually defeating the 7-headed dragon, and they're all excited. And then Mike basically is like, wraps it up. And he's like, there's going to be a medal ceremony, which made me think of you with Star Wars.
Yeah.
And now tell me if you thought the same thing, because Mike wrote this campaign. They're like, first of all, it was too short. And he goes, it was 10 hours. Well, that's roughly about how long this season was.
Yeah.
Did you get that? And then he goes, let me see. They go, what about the Proud Princess, which I was like, Nancy, the Lost Knight, Jonathan or Steve, and all the weird flowers in the cave, which demogorgon face shape? Was that? Like, I don't know, guys.
Exactly. Because I think it was sort of like meta there, where they're kind of like saying like, yes, it's over, but there's so much that it's still not really wrapped up. And they're kind of acknowledging that about their own show.
Yep.
That there's a lot more that we could get into. So yeah, and it also has Lucas cuts off the 7 heads. Dustin presents them to King Tristan. So who's the king?
Ted Wheeler.
I love that part, and I hope that it kind of like calls back to that in season 5, because that would be really cool. But then we have Mike looking at the blanket fort and kind of like missing Al. They come upstairs. Jonathan comes down to get Will, so they come upstairs and
damn, Karen Wheeler, she's getting her baking on, man.
Yes.
That whole kitchen island is covered with goodies.
Yeah, cake, cookies. I was like, I want to go to the Wheeler's house for Christmas,
right?
And then Jonathan and Will are walking out, and Nancy comes down the stairs and pauses him and is like, here, gives him a Christmas present. And he's kind of like, I didn't get you anything. Like, so
the worst.
I love how it's kind of like unclear at first whether they're still sort of like friends, because there is still sort of that chemistry between them as she hands it to him. And they go out, and Jonathan lets Will open it up in the car, and you see that it's a new camera.
A brand new camera. And I love that it cuts back inside. Tab Wheeler was live footage of me this past Christmas Eve, asleep with hand still in popcorn bowl.
Yes.
And then we pan over to Steve. He's spending what I'm assuming is Christmas Eve with the Wheelers. Brandy is actually on the hunt for the sweater that he's wearing. It's an original Ralph Lauren, but there's
the reindeer.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, I might get one for next year. I'll be an asshole.
That would be amazing.
I really love that. And this is what kind of made me, like originally when I first watched it, I love that they didn't do the stereotypical thing in this season, at least, that Nancy falls for the loner, leaves her jock boyfriend and goes for the loner. Yes, they did it in season 4. They kind of undid all that, but it worked with the narrative. Instead, she's still with Steve. This is more realistic. And Steve goes, did you give it to him? So it's almost
you
like
see that, he had bought
it. It's a peace offering. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yet again, Steve Harrington. Whew, he's too good for this world.
And it's just, I'm just so like happy to, see him being able to spend Christmas with the Wheelers. And then it makes
where the fuck are his parents?
Right. Even more sad when they break up, because poor Steve.
Oh God.
But we go over to the police department, and they've got their holiday party happening.
Which looks like a pretty good party. And
It
there is
does.
an article on the bulletin board with Will, and it says the boy who came back to life. So we just assumed that it did get news coverage and stuff. And we find out in season 2 that they made out kind of a cover story. And one of my all-time favorite Christmas songs are playing. I believe it's Carol of the Bells. And we see Hopper kind of like getting ready to leave, and he's pulling a me. He's like made a cameo at the party. Now he's just getting his food. And I like that little moment with Flo when she takes the cigarette out of his mouth and wishes him a Merry Christmas. Like, you can tell she kind of keeps an eye on him, I guess.
Yeah. Also, like, Callahan is wearing like an elf hat. I don't know if you saw that. And they kind of like Hopper says something to Powell and Callahan about how he has to take the food because their wife didn't have time to cook for him.
I love that ongoing, like, them just busting each other's balls. I love it.
Yeah. So he takes this food, this Tupperware, and some Eggos, which, like, I was like, how did he know that she likes
Maybe
Eggos?
that supermarket incident, they were like, yeah, this girl
Oh,
just
yeah,
came in
yeah,
and took a
yeah.
bunch of Eggos. I'm going to
There you
assume
go.
that.
Okay. That makes sense. He puts it in the woods in sort of like a little box thing in the woods. So that's our little clue, our little like sprinkle it in there that maybe
She
11
might be still
might be
alive.
alive. So we go to the buyer's house and the dog is back.
Jesus Christ, that dog, nobody saw it, and that ham looked disgusting, but it's leaning in and just eating the ham, and Will
Ham?
is
I thought it was like cake. I was like, what is it taking from the counter?
was like a solid cube of ham, man. I was like, ew. And right away you see Will, he's, shaking his presents, trying to like guess what is what, and Jonathan is using his new camera. So
Yeah,
cute.
he's just taking photos of everything, which was really cute. And they're sitting down to dinner. Joyce is kind of like talking about her terrible cooking.
Yeah, Joyce is like me. She's
Karen
like, why is
Wheeler,
it
she
so
is
runny?
not.
Yeah. This is kind of the polar opposite, but
Yeah.
it's cute, it's quaint and stuff, and I love that Will guesses that he might be getting an Atari, which was the video game that was really big. It was between Pong, I think Pong was on Atari, and before Nintendo. My parents
Okay.
had it, so
Yeah.
that's how I remembered it. You can kind of probably tell that like they saved up. This was a big deal because Jesus Christ, this kid has had a hell of a winter. And Will decides to get up to go to the bathroom to wash his hands. And what happens, Megan?
So we have that shot of him looking at the mirror, which I feel like I talked about in the last episode because Elle was in that same bathroom looking in the mirror. But he kind of has like a coughing fit and some sort of slug
It
comes
looks like
up.
Dart.
Yeah, like,
Ugh.
and slithers into the drain. And as that happens, he kind of has a flash to like being in the upside down.
Yeah.
You can tell that like the stuff that happens in season 2 is already starting with his like
Mhm.
flashes to the upside down, and he's kind of trying to hide it. So he goes back, tells his family everything is fine. He's just so like, I feel like he doesn't want them to worry. He went through this terrible thing, but like he feels like he just wants it to be over and doesn't tell them about it. He says everything's fine. They chat about the D&D game, and then it ends with like a pan out of like the view through the window of them sitting at the table, and I like how it ends with the actual theme music.
Yeah. So total chills, and this is the closing of the first season that started it all. So
Yeah.
definitely, this was one hell of a ride, and this was the season that just got everybody hooked.
And here we are, what,
Here we are.
8 years later.
Woohoo!
So, yeah. That's it.
That's it. That's the whole,
That's the whole Christmas present.
that's the whole box of Eggos. Jesus Christ.
It was so fun to talk about this season.
It really was. It was great to go back. And like I said, I usually have season 1 playing as background noise, but this was like the first time in a long time I sat down and I closely watched it. And like I said, like the egg in this episode, stuff that I had never noticed before. So it was a lot of fun. So I can't wait for us to do season 2 because that's like season 1 on steroids. So I cannot wait.
Well, we're up for it. We're going to take a couple of weeks off to do some other fun stuff, but
Mhm.
then we'll dive into season 2. So that'll be super fun. Okay, so we have not seen a ton of filming
No.
updates. Nothing really official for filming that has been shared that I can remember.
Hmm.
But the official Stranger Things Instagram account did share something that was kind of cool. It was a little mini interview with Jess Royal, who was the set director
Ooh.
of Stranger Things. And I was curious because I was like, has she been the set director since the very beginning? And I did clock as I was watching the credits roll for this season that it said set director Jess Royal.
I
So
love
she
that.
has, and I know we love all of the little details that get included in the sets and
Hmm.
like the posters and the bedrooms, everything down in Mike's basement. So she talked a little bit about her process and how she looks for things and makes decisions about the set. So I just thought that was kind of fascinating to see them share that. And I mean, I feel like we actually said that at some point while we were talking about that. Like, who makes these decisions? And
They're
now we
amazing.
have an answer for that.
Now we
So,
know.
yeah. So, Jess, you were amazing. We would love to be able to talk to her at some point. So, maybe we can manifest that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think we need to do some of those episodes where we talked about that we like analyze like all of the set decorations because that would be super fun.
That would be a
But
blast.
other than that,
Yeah.
for filming updates, we have seen kind of some photos, fan photos of sets that are happening around. So it looks like they are filming again in downtown Jackson. Some stuff must be happening in downtown Hawkins on the show. And I guess this is worth mentioning that there was that news about Hawkins High, how they're pretty much finished with that set. Sorry to bring it up. I know you're so
A
sad.
bummer.
Yeah, so
Mm.
it looks like they might be tearing that building down soon, which I know that that has been in the plans for a while now. Like, I think it would have been gone by now if filming hadn't been delayed by the writer's strike and everything like that. So, super interesting. I know the building that the lab is filmed at is also set to be demolished soon. I
Dear
know.
God, they're
And the
tearing everything
mall, I
down.
think the mall has been planned on being demolished for a while now. I'm surprised it's still there. So, we're gonna start seeing all of those things go away pretty soon. So, hopefully they're still there for
Ugh,
us in October.
I know. God.
Fingers
Ugh.
crossed for us, guys. So, what do we have going for merch today?
Well, actually, I would love to shout out an amazing artist and shop, Loki Draws. You can find them on Instagram. They make steady and other art prints, and they are available on Etsy. They actually have these really affordable commissions that are available starting at £10,
So that's about $12.
as well as book cover commissions for writers. So I think that's really cool. And I actually know that amazing author Tell Me a Story. They have actually gone through this incredible artist and they have come out with some amazing artwork for some of their work on archive. You can actually find more info by contacting and following Logie Draws, which are on Insta and Twitter. And I have to say, their artwork is absolutely incredible. I cannot wait to actually order some myself and frame it up in my living room.
Yeah, so I love their style. They just have like a very unique, very distinct style. I can always tell immediately when something was Logie Draws. So definitely affordable commissions if anybody wants to have any commissions done. And I do love that they do book covers as well. So that's super cool. Yeah, so check out Logie Draws on Instagram, Twitter, or their Etsy shop. You definitely need to add some to your walls.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely one of the few artists that I am missing because I just really like, they almost do like this like 80 feels Miami Vice new wave style that I really love. And they just draw steady so well. So definitely have to add them to my collection.
Absolutely. So we are so happy to shout them out today. Definitely check them out.
some exciting news, guys. Now, it's not official, but as far as I know, this is actually a real thing that will be happening. And I will be actually posting the leaked photo of the upcoming new Scoops Ahoy flavors. Yes, you heard right, people. New flavors of Scoops Ahoy ice cream. Supposedly, my source said that these photos were taken at almost like a food convention in Germany, where I guess different vendors and companies will show upcoming things that are going to be happening, different flavors, different boxes, new stuff that's going to be coming out in the food industry. And they showed, so I'm assuming that this is going to be available in Walmart in a couple of months at least, because they haven't officially announced it. But the new Scoops Ahoy flavors are the Mint Void, Triple Choc Shadow, so it's like a chocolate thing, it looks delicious, the Peanut Experiment, and then this was the one that I was like, oh, bitch. It is Starcourt Strawberry Cheesecake.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
I cannot wait. I mean, I will definitely have to take a lactate, but I cannot wait.
Yeah, the Mint Void, that is enticing me because the Void is pretty good, but it's very
that charcoal, that's it. That's my favorite flavor. But I was on FaceTime with a friend not too long ago, and I forgot how badly it stains your teeth and mouth.
Yeah.
So midway through, they were like, are you okay? And I looked like a goblin. But yeah, I'm just really excited because every single flavor actually sounds, as the kids say, pretty banging. So I cannot wait.
What's your favorite flavor right now?
Right now, I would have to say it's a tie between the Void and the chocolate pudding. What about you?
Okay. I really like the one that is like peppermint. I can't remember what it's called.
The mint flare or whatever.
Flare. Yeah. I really like that. And I like the one that has like the syrup flavor, the Eggo.
Oh, the extravaganza. Yeah, that looks really good.
Yeah. So those are good.
Cannot wait.
Super fun. Yeah.
Also, I want to actually make a shout out. Brandy is actually looking to see if any artists out there are interested in drawing anything that has to do with the character of Billy or Dacre Montgomery in general, because she doesn't really know what she's going to be bringing to the October convention. And she's just kind of putting out her feelers to see if any artists are willing to do commissions and draw Billy Hargrove. So just putting that out there, guys.
Yeah, speaking of that, and we should put this out there for some artists. So we have the giveaway that we're doing, and we have one grand prize winner who's going to get to choose which item they get signed by Joe Keery. And we're also going to have 2 runners up. So we're going to be getting 3 different things that are the options for someone to get signed. And we've pretty much decided that one of them is going to be a Funko.
Yep.
One is going to be one of Joe's albums. So we'll have to figure out which one. Maybe we'll order both, and then whoever gets to choose can pick. But like a vinyl of it, which is super cool. And then the third item I would love to do is kind of like an art print that we could have him sign. So we have to kind of put our feelers out there for artists and kind of see which artist we would like to buy a print from, so that can be one of the choices for our prize winner. And then if we don't end up getting it signed, we'll still give that away to one of the runner-ups. So yeah, that's going to be super fun. So
exciting.
We're so excited about this giveaway.
Woohoo!
So I think that's pretty much it for today. This has been a jam-packed episode, but I think it did pretty good. It didn't go too far over our normal episode length, even though that last episode was action-packed and had a lot to dive into. Yeah, so we have had so much fun doing our Lover's Lake deep dive for season 1 with all of you, and we can't wait to keep talking to you, because obviously you'll hear from us every week with our bonus episodes as well in between for Skull Rock Summer. But we'll see you in a few weeks for our next Lover's Lake deep dive of season 2.
Get ready, guys. It's going to be wild.
Over and out.
Over and out.
Eddie, I'm not sure I love the idea of you driving.
Oh, I'm starting to sucker. Harrington's got her. Get you, big boy.
And we are back.
And then we're back.
Secret Studies segment coming at ya. So we, of course, always have this segment at the end to talk about all of the fan fiction that we've been reading and kind of gush about, Steve Harrington, Eddie Munson.
The boys.
The loves of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So what have you been reading, Stacy?
So I'm trying to read a little bit more, but this has been a crazy weekend as we kick off the summer of Skull Rock. But I actually read yesterday a one-shot by Anna Another Thing, who wrote that amazing A Certain Type about Eddie and Steve over the years and stuff, and you kind of get to see older Eddie, so it's amazing. Well, this one was called The Embarrassment of Riches. And it's kind of like a standalone where the boys are on a road trip with Robin and her girlfriend, Alex, and how Robin, gets her period. And she's like, I'm not camping out. Absolutely not. So they have to find a bed and breakfast. And they find this old one run by this adorable old couple. And right away, Eddie's like, this place is haunted. And it's so funny because it's like they're basically Steve and Eddie are trying to have sex, but something's wrong with every room. So they keep moving from room to room to room. And it's either Eddie feels like there's a ghost in the room, or the bed's creaking too loud, or it's kind of creepy because it used to be the couple's daughter's room. So it's like a princess room. It was hysterical. There was just the right amount of smut. It was very, very sweet. And she also does incredible artwork, which is on her Tumblr and Twitter. And she draws them so cute, and there's just a really cute breakfast scene and stuff. So I right away was giggling, and I definitely want to read more of her stuff. So highly recommend.
Yeah, that sounds like so much fun. That would be cute to read.
I'll definitely send it.
I like fics that have humor in them.
Why not?
Yeah. So I did finish. So last week I had said that I had read June 27th, 1993.
That was a good one.
That was Rixie Gray, and I had downloaded another of their one-shots where it's Steve and Eddie in the boathouse scene, and they actually have two stories. So I read the shorter one first, which is actually Steve and Eddie in the moment in the boathouse. Eddie realizes that Steve is a little turned on and kind of kicks everybody out. And so they have something to work out between themselves. But they wrote that one after they had written this other fic, which was Steve and Eddie have the moment of the boathouse, but then it kind of goes down in the story, in the show, but Steve wants to take Eddie home with him to protect him rather than leaving him in the boathouse. So they put Eddie in the trunk of Steve's car, which this I think is what they should have done in the show.
Should have,
instead of leaving poor Eddie in the boathouse. Come on, Duffer Brothers.
Yeah, get it together.
This is all your fault. But yeah, so Steve puts Eddie in the car, and he has a garage, so it's not like anybody could see him getting out of the house at the garage. But then once they get home, it's kind of there's tension and some very fun stuff happens.
You're going to send that one to me, just letting you know. Thank you.
Yeah, it takes their minds off of things a little bit.
Good.
Stories like that, though, too, that are just one-shots that happen in the middle of the show are sort of bittersweet because it's not it changes the ending.
No.
So it almost makes the ending worse.
Cue the Moby song, dear
exactly. God. When it's cold, I like to die. So yeah, that was really good. And I'm glad I checked out some more. I'm glad you recommended that author because I got to check out some more of their stuff too. But hoping to also get my podfic on in the next few weeks too. Yeah. We have said that we want to do some more chapters of Take the Money and Run. And I'm hoping to finish up some podfics that I've been working on and hopefully start some new ones. And I still am going to work on that list for you.
Yes, please.
For your drive because we need to source 12 hours of Podfix for you. 6 hours here, 6 hours back.
Yeah, I am going to need the content, guys, because, man, my mind wanders. So I need something to focus on while I'm driving.
Yeah, we got you. We got you. So
Nice.
All right. Well, that was super fun. It's always fun to check in with what you're reading.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So we'll have more for you next week, and we are, just enjoying the summertime, enjoying it.
Summer Skull Rock, baby.
All right, everybody. Peace out.
Over and out, guys. Bye.